Hi, I'm Mike Fink, founder and director of GoMissionsToMexico.com. In this video, we'd like to talk with you about safety in Mexico. Over the last several years, there's been a number of incidents and a fair amount of media coverage that have drawn attention to some of the things in Mexico. So we want to talk with you about that. I want to let you know that my wife and I and family, my son and his wife, we live down here in Mexico. We're long-term missionaries. We've been here for about 14 years. And so we want to talk with you about the facts. We would like to set aside the media, emotional, drama type thing, and we want to just talk cold, hard facts, if we may, so that you can understand from a factual standpoint the reality of the situation down here. I want to let you know that we are located in a rural, farming, agricultural area with very little threats or virtually none of any kind. Nothing really happens down here. It's big news when things do happen, but like I say, we're in a farming area. The valley is about 60 miles long. It's spread out. There's about 40, 50 communities spread out over the valley, and humble people here, a lot of people from Oaxaca that come up, indigenous people. So there's really no threats of anything of that nature. Also want to mention to you that the drive down to Mexico, some people have fear about the highways. We're located on the Baja Peninsula, so we're on the western side really of Mexico. We're really kind of isolated from what's going on in the mainland. And so the drive down is via a highway. About the first half is a nice toll road, then the next half is a two-lane highway. Approximately each day there's about 10,000 vehicles that use the highway every day. And we'll be happy to let you know that there's been virtually no incidents whatsoever. There's not people shooting randomly from hilltops. That's just not a reality. Also, a lot of things that come out in the media are the bad news. The reality is there's a lot of good news that you're not hearing about, and I'd like to just briefly draw your attention to that. Number one is our current president is really working hard to combat the drug trafficking in Mexico. He has sent a lot of the army to the border, and Mexico uses its army different than the United States does. It uses its army kind of like policemen, so they're our friends. And they've gone to the border to help curb some of the things that have happened. They patrol the highways a lot. The president has added a lot of police force to the highways in the northern part of Mexico. Also, he changed all of the border officials. So when you come into Mexico, the bribes and some of those things are gone now. The policemen, the federales and stuff like that, he's really cracked down on that, so you don't have to worry about getting, the bribes and things of that nature, abused or anything like that. So 10,000 vehicles a day come down, no problems whatsoever. So you really don't have to worry about that. Coming into Mexico via Tijuana, you don't go through Tijuana, you bypass Tijuana, you go on a toll road, so you don't have to really worry about that. Should also mention to you real briefly that according to some statistics, most of the U.S. Larger cities have a lot higher murder rate than most of the ones in Mexico. New Orleans comes in at about 60 to 80 murders per 100,000. D.C. is about 45. Detroit's about 50 to 60. The Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland area is about 40. Southern California is about 25, 30, right in there. Tijuana is 13. So just to give you some perspective on the issue. And according to the facts, over the last several decades, the murder rate in Mexico has dropped steadily. Should also mention to you that some of the incidents that you have heard about are drug related. In fact, they are drug traffickers fighting among themselves. The Americans aren't targeted, civilians aren't targeted, it's just fighting among themselves. Once again, a lot of the issues that we're seeing in the States just aren't really a reality down here. Also want to mention to you, also in all fairness, and humbly I say this, but I want to be truthful, is that a good case could be put together why it's not safe to travel in the U.S. We had open air shooting in Arizona. One of our Congress persons were killed or severely damaged. They weren't killed, pardon me. We've had incidents in Seton Hall. We've had incidents in Chicago area, the Bay Area. There's been a number of open air shootings in the United States, so we could be concerned about that as well. So understand that it's not nearly what you might think it is. Also, just want to let you know as well that there has been a couple Americans that have been affected, and so you might be alarmed by that. But let me help you understand what kind of Americans, if I may, these are. They are dual citizen Americans. They are Americans with a U.S. citizenship, and then there are Mexicans, and they are the ones who have been involved in the drug trafficking. So even though you might hear that an American is involved, this American is a dual citizenship who is also a Mexican, and nationality-wise, they're normally Mexicans with a U.S. citizenship. So really Mexican or American citizens aren't really involved or targeted. Lastly, briefly, I just want to address from a biblical point of view, if I may, bring God into the picture. Once again, we know that things in Mexico and our area is very calm, very peaceful. A lot of the people down here are afraid to go to the U.S. because they hear about the things that happen in the U.S. In the same way that you in the United States hear about things that are happening in Mexico, we hear about things in Mexico that are happening in the U.S., and we're alarmed, and the people down here are alarmed, and it's always easy to think that all of the country is like one incident that happened. It's easy to think here in Mexico that all of the U.S. is like what happened in Arizona, or an open air shooting or whatever. And then it's easy to think that when you're in the States and you hear something about Mexico, that all of Mexico is in this war with shootouts every day. It's just not the reality. So anyway, I also want to help you understand from a spiritual or a biblical perspective how God can really protect us. One of the fascinating things about Scripture that we see is a number of things. One, our days are numbered. We are not going to die one day sooner or one day later than God's perfect plan for us. It's already written. The hairs of our head are numbered, and we are in God's hand, and we're not going to die one day earlier or one day later. Our days are numbered. We can be in the perfect environment, in the safest environment, and if it's our time to go, there's no wall that's going to stop God's hand from taking us. It's just a reality. But likewise, we can be in a dangerous environment serving God, and God is able to protect us. He says in Scripture, "Is my arm too short? I cannot help you or save you." One of the things that I have learned over the years humbly is that God delights in our faith, and it bothers him when we have a lack of faith. So all throughout Scripture we have ample situations, examples all over the place where God supernaturally protects his people. We have David, who was protected. So we have the Apostle Paul as he went out. So we have protection from God. So I want to put your hearts at ease. I want to invite you to come down. God bless you, and let us know if you have any questions whatsoever.